This text appears during the opening of every single Fargo episode, as well as the movie, and yet it's not entirely factual. So, why would this blatantly false statement continue its prominence? Well, this may require some tinfoil. However, I believe it remains because what happens in Fargo, while incredibly unlikely, is still rooted in reality, and are at the very least possible events. After all, Fargo is about stories, true or false. The accuracy is irrelevant. So, what is a Fargo? Well, it's a town in North Carolina, as well as a movie. However, the Fargo we'll be discussing would be the television series on FX. However, before I start discussing the show, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention its origin. Fargo the film was written, produced, as well as directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. These two need no introduction as their footprint is still expanding to this day. They shot the film during 1995 and it was ready to release by 96. It premiered at Cannes during the same year, and almost immediately it was met with critical acclaim, earning Joel Coen the festival's Best Director award. A critical as well as commercial success, the film also received 7 Oscar noms during the 69th Academy Awards. It won Best Actress for the absolute legend that is Frances McDormand, as well as Best Original Screenplay for the Coens. The film was also heralded as a return to independent filmmaking on a relatively achievable budget. The film introduced us to the small town of Brainerd, and the residents who lived there. From the snow-covered landscape to the accents and politeness of the everyday folk, you would almost be forgiven for thinking it's a family-friendly film. Up until a lack of temporary tags forces Peter Stormare to be all smooth, you know. And with that, the tone is now fully cemented for the preceding hour. And it's hard to really articulate just what the Coen brothers' tone is, because it is wholly unique and present in all their work. Maybe it's their particular style. Regardless, whatever it is, any follow-up would have to at least include a semblance of it, and I am thrilled to say that Fargo the show unequivocally captures that style, while simultaneously crafting its own style and voice. And that is in large part due to its creator and showrunner, Noah Hawley. Now, Noah Hawley's been in the business for a while. He was a writer on Bones. He also created a show called The Unusuals, but I haven't seen it yet. I also haven't seen Legion, which he created as well. However, I have heard good things about both shows. Now, thankfully for us, Noah Hawley writes every single episode, so that the entirety of the show can maintain a specific vision or voice, even when each season is largely self-contained. And if you weren't aware, Fargo is anthology-based, with a mostly 10-episode season limit. This means that each season has to tell a conclusive and satisfying narrative each and every time you reach that season finale. Another byproduct is that if you wanted, you can start on episode 1 of the second season, and be perfectly fine. That being said, don't do that. While being separate stories, they do share the same continuity. Without revealing too much, there may be some crossovers, hint hint, that you wouldn't be able to fully appreciate without the knowledge of the previous seasons under your belt. Each season is also set in a different year, with the furthest being Season 4, which is dated back to the 1950s. Similar to the film, the show also has next to nothing to do with the actual city of Fargo itself. So, what genre would we categorize Fargo as? Well, yeah, that's a bit of a loaded question, but I'll try. Fargo is a dark comedy crime thriller while also being a drama, and if you can sprinkle some horror elements, you've got it. It's basically every single genre, except of course the best one, And, yes, if you can feel a pointless shoehorn coming in, you may be right.
Hell. We got him. Intercept course. Everyone suit up and get ready for a high G burn.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm not sure what happened there. Oh, shit. You got something else coming too. Oh, thank God it's just the pacing. For a show that averages about 55 minutes to an hour an episode, they sure do fly by fast. And that is entirely down to Fargo's brilliant pace and the fact that they are able to communicate so much in every single scene. The pace feels energetic, yet simultaneously laid back and meticulous. And at the risk of sounding like a fool, I think another reason Fargo is able to maintain its unique pace is because each character is doing something quite different from the others, with a variety of levels of urgency. And now that we're here, I think it's high time we talked about Fargo's characters. The unsure of himself salesman, the determined by-the-book cop, the enigmatic drifter with a secret. Initially, they might even seem like stock characters for a little bit. Yeah, well, they don't seem like stock characters for long, however, thanks to Fargo's ability to give a whole hell of a lot of personality to each and every one of them.
You're doing it wrong. You need to press your forearm into the back of his neck, grab your elbow with the other hand, choke him right out.
Admittedly, I may have to touch a bit on the writing for a second, because Fargo is just able to inject so much character development with minimal screen time, meaning in this show, even characters with minute amount of screen time, relegated to even just a single scene, are still able to leave a lasting impression.
$2. Or that's $3. $5.
As somebody with an interest in acting, I could only imagine how thrilled the actors would be upon reading the scripts. And luckily for us, these actors are also incredibly entertaining to watch. I mean, virtually every single one of them are incredibly proficient at their craft. And again, I'm touching more on the writing here, but the key to a great character is to make them both nuanced and three-dimensional. Alongside those, you also need to write them as an actual character, which essentially means they need to have wants, needs, and in other words, they need to have motivation and not just be props. After all, we're all the heroes, protagonists of our own individual stories. Fargo has a fairly sizable amount of point-of-view characters, which is, it's honestly great, because it lets you see the workings of every group and understand each character's personal motivation. Another wonderful aspect of this series is that because every character is treated as the protagonist of their own story, one character's antagonist may not necessarily be another one's, so a variety of strange alliances and meetups can occur. Same goes for characters with aligned goals. Fargo's protagonists are also active rather than passive, meaning that their actions move the plot forward and help inform the main narrative. And alongside abiding by the number one rule of filmmaking, show don't tell, Fargo also understands that every scene must help drive the plot forward or inform us on the characters. Each and every scene must add to the narrative. Moving on, I'm going to be grabbing one of Fargo's many exceptional characters and just briefly speaking about them while being succinct with spoilers. This also doubles as a full transition to me talking about this show's writing, which means no more beating around the bush. So side note, this is a topic I am still actively learning about, so my takes may be atrociously awful. Lester Nygaard, the aforementioned salesman. He works a job he's not great at. He's in a marriage that's about as healthy and stagnant as a crusty motel room. And similarly stagnant to the marriage he's in, Lester is constantly seeking the approval and recognition of others. This makes him a walking doormat. However, I probably shouldn't say any more due to a fear of spoilers, but he's an incredibly well-nuanced character, a fact revealed the more you get to know him. Additionally, every character arc also feeds into the main narrative due to the connectedness of the plot. The story itself also needs to be focused and not pulled in 38 different directions. There's nothing worse and more disappointing than an unfocused narrative with glimmers of greatness that it clearly should have given more focus. The efficiency of Fargo's writing itself is a little difficult to discuss whilst remaining spoiler-free. However, I can briefly touch on the fact that within the first 10 minutes of the first episode, we come to really understand Lester's place in the world and his unsatisfying life. We are even able to understand and possibly root for this character in under 10 minutes of screen time. And if that isn't a testament to how well written this show is, I just have nothing left to say on this particular topic. Finishing up, I want to briefly discuss Fargo's implementation of music. Now, I'm not exactly a scholar in this field. However, Fargo's score is absolutely exceptional and deserves recognition. So yeah, in other words, it's amazing. It also constitutes some great character themes as well. Fargo's music is used perfectly to enhance current emotions, not fabricate false ones. Fargo's individual episode directors also know when a scene would play much better without any music at all. Every episode of Fargo is directed like a meticulous Broadway play. Every camera movement, every shot communicates something. Staying on the same subject of communication, it is now time for me to communicate my departure. In summation, Fargo has some of the best writing, the best acting, the best directing, the best music, and you haven't even heard of it. We made it. We're finally finalizing things. If you were at all interested in anything I said in this video, Fargo premieres on FX, and Season 5 is hopefully coming soon. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. In summation, that is why Fargo is the greatest show that you have never even heard of.